Hi Pre-Calc. We're on our third week of virtual math life. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to get rolling this week with graphing. So that's 4.5, which is graphing. Thank you for your exams. I actually haven't gotten a chance to look at them yet, but I will. I'll get on it. Okay, so we're going to start by graphing, and the idea is that we're going to convert the unit circle from being rotational to being linear. So think of the unit circle. Okay, let me just start with the cosine. And how I'm going to teach you to graph is to use what we would call a standard table. So on the unit circle, the cosine is all of the first values. So the cosine at 0 is 1. The cosine at pi over 2 is 0. The cosine at pi is -1. The cosine at 3 pi over 2 is 0. The cosine at 2 pi is back at 1. So this is what I'm going to call the standard table for cosine. Now I'm going to graph this table in a linear fashion. So when you graph this for test 3, please try to scale this. So like if I say this is pi over 2, you can estimate pi as about 3. So this is like 3 over 2 or like 1.5. Okay, so if this is 1.5, then if I want to put a 1 over here, that should be like 2/3 or whatever this is. So that actually should have been like a little higher, but that's the idea. Like you want, this bar should be like longer than that guy should be. You don't have to get it perfect. I'm not going to take like a ruler out or a measuring stick to your exam, but I should be able to tell that you've sort of thought about the magnitudes. This is pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. Okay, so you know these values that I just got off of the unit circle? I'm now going to graph them. So at 0, I'm at 1. At pi over 2, I'm at 0. At pi, I'm at -1. At 3 pi over 2, I'm back at 0. And at 2 pi, I'm at 1. And I'm going to connect these dots. And we would say that this is one period or one cycle of cosine x. And after one cycle, it just repeats the wave. It's just going to repeat the pattern. So if it helps you, if it's a visual, like we're almost like pulling this off like it's a spool, a thread. We're like pulling it off and putting it this way. Now I'm going to ask you on test 3 to graph me 2 cycles of this. And I don't care if you go to the right, you go to the left, or you go to both sides. I don't care. Okay, so just because the way this is sort of filling out the paper, it looks like I might go a little bit to both. So I'll put -pi over 2 here, -pi, -3 pi over 2, -2 pi. Okay. So then just think how the pattern might go. If this is at the top, then I have to go back to the middle. Then I go to the bottom. Then I go back to the middle. And then I go to the top. Right? Just think of like how it goes. Okay? And then that's 2 cycles of the cosine graph. So this is the standard graph. It has a y-intercept at 1. and all the x-intercepts fall at the fractional pi's. The fractional pi's are where the x-intercepts fall. And the domain is all real numbers, and the range goes from -1 to 1. So if you just want to sort of, just to make some observations, and then when you do the sine function, it would be like the same. You want to just make some observations. So the domain of this is -infinity to infinity. The range of this is going to fall between -1 and 1. The y-intercept is at 0, 1, and the x-intercept is at all the fractional pi's. They're at all the fractional pi's. And there's an infinite amount of them. Okay, gang, I'm going to leave this video here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about how to move this graph around, how to stretch it, compress it, and shift it up, down, and left, right. But let me leave this one here. Bye-bye.